I think we have quorum. I see Alder Edwards that just joined us. So let us begin.
Yeah, it's like 6 o'clock.
I hereby call this meeting to order. Today, we want to go ahead and have, we have quorum, so I just want to say that today, Tuesday, May 25th, 2021, at 6 p.m., the Tax Abatement Committee will hold a public hearing. We're going to have it via video conference. The meeting can be viewed at https://bit.ly/3WIHLYV or joined by telephone at 301-715-8592 and enter webinar ID 978-7112-1784 and add phone voice only passcode 469623397. Item 1, LM-2021-0148 from the Chief Financial Office of the Towers at Tower Lane submitting a request for an extension of its tax abatement agreement. Item 2, LM-2021-0149 from Claris Global Alliance submitting on behalf of Community Preservation Partners doing business as Fairbanks Community Partners, LP, an application for a tax agreement regarding its 100% affordability or affordable housing rehabilitation at 355 Ferry Street. Item 3, LM-2021-0197, order concerning real property taxes of Dwight Downer on his motor vehicle tax account numbers 6116612, 677299, 694007, and 694008. Item 4, LM-2021-0283, 0203, order concerning real property taxes of Vanita Taylor Rose on her motor vehicle tax account number 833951. Item 5, LM-2021-0195, order abating deferring collection of real property taxes due from Inez Donaldson on her residence grant lists of 2019 and 2020. Item 6, LM-2021-0196, order abating deferring collection of real property taxes due from Rose M. Jackson on her residence grant list of 2019 and 2020. These items are on file and available in the office of the City Clerk, 200 Orange Street, room 202, New Haven, Connecticut. Per order, Honorable Jose Crespo, Chair, and attest, Honorable Michael B. Smart, City Clerk. If you need a disability-related accommodation, please call 3 business days in advance at 203-946-7651, voice, or 203-946-8582, TTY. Public may send public comment to public testimony at newhavencT.gov or join the meeting via video conference with the information provided early on. At this time, I would like to ask the introduction of the members. I will begin. I am Jose Crespo, Chair of the Tax Abatement Committee, Fairhaven.
Ernie Santiago, Ward 15.
Vice Chair. Next.
Abby Roth, Ward 7.
Kimberly Edwards, Ward 19.
Order Doug.
Frank Douglas, Ward 2. I'm sorry.
Keep your eyes on the road, Order Douglas.
Alder Singh, Ward 5.
And I would like to also recognize Alder Salvatore DeCola, who has joined us. So at this time, I would like to ask Don for item 1, or do we have any of the members or any of the folks that are looking for assistance for these items for either a tax abatement? Do we have them present?
No, we don't.
Okay. So for item 1, I know that we were going to have our colleague Alder DeCola provide us a little bit of a insight for this item, which is the one for the Tower Lane submitting a request for an extension. And I would like to yield the floor to my colleague Alder DeCola.
Thank you. Alder Sal DeCola, Ward 18, sitting on the Lishka Committee. We're going with Tower 1 first,
Correct.
right? Their 40-year abatement has expired. They were trying to, again, try to get a 40-year with the same arrangement. We at Lishka decided that we would give them a 1-year extension and get them to negotiate a deal with the city, trying to incorporate Tower West. Is the West done? I'm sorry.
Tower 1.
Tower 1. So that's what we're suggesting, that with the Lish Committee to this committee, is to give a 1-year extension. They need to negotiate a deal with the city, seeing if they could go with Tower 1 in the same arrangement, or go for a deferral, because we can't go more than 15 years if we do anything. So they're under the, Ben DeLito was the mayor at the time of that last agreement. So that's our recommendation from Lisha, to give a 1-year extension. They need to negotiate with the city and to see where they can go, if they could tie it with Tower 1, and it will come back to Lishka, and it will come back to us. So that's our recommendation from Lishka for Tower West, right? Tower West? I get tired, confused with the towers. I apologize.
Tower 1.
Tower 1, okay.
This is Tower East.
This is
Tower
Tower East. Yes. So we're asking that we give a 1-year extension to Tower East to try to work with the city to try to incorporate their agreement with Tower 1. And then again, it will come back to Lishka and back to this committee, hopefully in a year. So that's our recommendation from Lishka. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alder DeCola. If you could just please, since you're presenting this item to us, and provide some information, if you could just, for the record, name and address, please, or your address, please.
South Dakota, 120 Townsend Avenue.
Thank you, sir. So I also wanted to say, yes, I have listened to this item in Lishka Committee, and I am also in agreement with my colleague regarding the providing a 1-year extension so that they can come up with a strategic plan or some sort of negotiation plan as to how they're going to proceed before they can get a tax abatement. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Don, do we have anyone regarding item 2 from the Claris Global Alliance?
No, we don't.
Okay, so let's go over, let's skip that one for now.
I think Alder Roth had her hand up. Will you call
Okay.
that the item?
So let's see, Alder Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Vice Chair. I guess I have sort of just a process question. For item 1, were we gonna have conversation about it, or are you waiting until we get to deliberations and go through all the other items? I guess just what's the process for?
So you can, if you have questions, you can certainly ask those questions to Alder DeCola, or we can wait till deliberation. But yeah, you can certainly ask now if you have any questions. Anyone from the committee, if they have any questions, can certainly ask at this time.
Yep. I have a number of questions. I guess for one, I'm sort of curious why no one from Tower One is here and why no one from the Lista committee is here. This is unusual. And so I guess I'm, first of all, just want to get an understanding of that.
Right, I do know that some of the Lista committee members were out of town or there was emergent circumstances that did not permit them to be here. But I do not know why Tower East staff were not here. So maybe Alder DeCola or Don have some more information about that.
I have no
No.
understanding of why they're not here.
Okay.
Maybe they heard the outcome of our Lishka meeting and they decided to not attend, knowing that we're not giving them this deal at this time. So,
Right. And I know that Alder DeCola or myself can certainly be representing Lista at this particular meeting, given that we're both Lista committee members. So if we need to also represent them on that capacity, we can certainly do that.
I guess one of my questions is why they filed for the extension so close to the deadline. Had they filed it earlier, we sort of perhaps would not be in this kind of bind of to extend it because the two buildings have very different current structures for the abatement, if I'm understanding correctly, and they're quite complex. Well, this one's quite simple. It's 6%, they pay 6%, whereas the other one is a very different standard. And so, and they pay much more. And so kind of locking into this very, very low rate when they waited to the last minute, I guess I'm just trying to get an understanding of that.
like I said, they're not here to defend themselves or explain themselves. This is a 40-year deal. I bet there's a lot of new different administrations, and I guess it just fell between the cracks. But in the Lishka committee, we were not accepting this agreement to continue. So to your concern is, we're just giving the 1-year extension so they could work something out with this city and come back to us. So it's just trying to be equitable to everybody. We're not trying to blame who did this, but it's about trying to get a fair deal for the city on this one. So it's in their court right now. So basically what I'm saying in our committee meeting was the whole Lishka committee agreed not to give them any 40-year extension. We agreed that we would give them a 1-year extension so they could work this out and try to incorporate it with Tower One, with that agreement. So they're both working at the same time frame. So that was our suggestion, and we'll see if they're willing to work with that, or there'd be no deal.
Alder, I see my colleague from Ward 19 has her hand raised, so I'll defer to her.
Thank you, Alder Roth. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alder Edwards?
I did just have a question for clarification, because when I read the information in the letter that was submitted from the organization, what I'm reading is a 20-year extension request. So is it 20 years extension request or 40 years?
So at this moment, we're not providing any extension except for the 1 year.
Exactly.
And they're asking for the 40, I believe they're looking for a 40-year tax abatement.
Okay, because the document I see that they wrote said 20 years, unless I'm looking at the wrong document. So I wanted to clarify that. And although your committee is recommending a 1-year extension, do we still, as a committee, through the chair, are we able to submit questions we may have for them through you?
Absolutely.
To get
And
clarification or, things like that.
if we provide them an extension, once we deliberate, they can only come up to the table and have an opportunity to present what it is that they want long-term. So this is just an opportunity for them to come to the table and have a discussion with the city and make sure that the numbers are making sense. Otherwise, we're not going to approve any deal at all. So they still have to come before Lishta, and they still have to come back before this tax abatement committee before anything gets approved.
Okay, so even before approval, through what I'm reading today, if I have questions about the documents already submitted today, it is still through the chair, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that is the only question I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder
Chair.
Edwards. Yes,
Mr. Chair, can I make a clarification?
sure.
The Lishta Committee decided to recommend the 1-year extension because they had a lot of questions. And the way the system would work, it would have to stay in committee, and it's already gone past their expiration date. Rather than create additional problems because of that, especially with taxes coming due again, they recommended the 1-year extension so that they could work out those questions. You were talking about the 6%. It's not 6%. It's between 6% and a certain other number. And we couldn't quite get a clarification on just what the dollar amount was. That alone would have taken a couple of months to figure out, to work with them to come up with a dollar amount that is understandable.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Hayden, for that clarification. That makes a difference.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are you all set, Alder Edwards? Alder Edwards?
I am all
Okay.
set. Thank you very much.
Perfect. I see Vice Chair Santiago's hand up. You're muted, sir.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm trying to click it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just got a question, Don, or Sal, or Alder Crespo. Okay, given that I agree with Alder Roth on why do they wait until so long? They knew it was coming to an end, and they still, everybody that comes to Lista, it's like they're doing the same thing. They put us against the wall, so we have to agree, for something, even though we're not agreeing on anything right now. My question is, if we don't agree to this 1-year deal, what's going to happen?
That's a great question.
They'll end up paying full taxes.
Yeah.
Then the families that are in that building
Uh,
will be in jeopardy.
okay,
This is not about the corporation. This is about the family that are living in there.
I agree.
That's why we looked at it. They should not suffer for incompetence of a corporation.
Okay, I agree with you 100%. But it's like it's every time. There's nothing we can do, fine or anything. So I mean,
No,
That's a-
it comes, sorry, Chair, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Alder Nicola.
Well, that's why we're giving the 1-year extension, because they're not going to get the same deal. It's not happening. It's the Lishka committee agreed that is not happening what they have right now. So it's going to be a much different one. They're doing remodeling, but they're only remodeling the lobby and things. They're not doing nothing for the apartments. So there's a lot of questions still have to be answered. So I understand everybody's concern, but it's just a 1-year extension, and this will all come back to Lishka. And Lishka was not looking to, and they can only get 15 years on top of that with a 2-year work if they do the
17,
remodeling. But they're not remodeling any apartments. That's the thing about this.
but let me ask you something. I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Don. I don't think the 2 years apply to here, because isn't it the 2 years when it's in new construction?
Yes,
Because I don't think that,
I would think so. If the 2 years were to be to begin, or they would hold off for 2 years before they can commence paying those, I believe, taxes, that would be because somebody's doing new construction.
Pardon me, but it's not just new construction. If it's a total rebuild or new construction, then you have a 2-year construction delay.
yeah.
Okay.
But from what we understand, and we never got a real answer on that. We didn't have a whole lot of time ourselves.
Right.
And that's one of the questions that will be asked.
So there are many questions that are still unanswered. which is why we would like to provide an opportunity for that extension for them to answer those questions and be prepared at Lista so that we can be better prepared to respond to those questions in this committee.
So, okay, I think I know the answers, but I want to make sure I need the clarity. So if we send this favorable,
Mhm.
then we have to answer the questions before the full board votes? Am I correct?
You can certainly ask questions at any time.
No. The question that we're gonna ask right now, through you, are they gonna be answered before the full board votes on this? Or after a year when they come back to us?
That's a great question. I can submit those questions as soon as I receive them
Yeah.
and see if we can have a response right away.
'Cause-
Mr. Chair,
Ultimately, yes,
Mr. Chair, the problem with asking questions now is there is no agreement, formal agreement going on past that year.
okay,
A
Yeah,
lot of your questions may be answered because they have to come before the committee again, once a deal has been worked out, and then you can have a better understanding of just what it is that's going to happen. Because you may be asking a question that unfortunately is immaterial to what could happen. Do what I'm saying?
but I get that, but my main question is, why the 2 years if not no constructions? That's my questions.
Well, right
That's
now,
my only one.
they're not getting that.
They're
That's
not
not the
getting-
recommendation of
Oh,
Lista.
oh,
That is not the
okay.
recommendation of Lista. Lista's only recommendation
1 year.
1
is
year,
to extend it 1 year
I get it,
so
yeah.
that we can finalize the correct information to make
Got
an
it.
agreement with them. Then that agreement will come to you to look at and
Got
then
it. I
make
get
your
it.
recommendation to the full board. The only
Perfect.
question going to the full board is to offer them the 1-year extension.
I get it. So after we agree this, before they come to us, then we ask all those questions. I get it. Thank you.
got
Yes.
that right.
I
Because we
got
don't know
it now.
what it's gonna end up being.
I got it 100%. Thank you.
And to your point and to Alder Roth's point, why do they come so late? I wish everyone who does that can answer that question. As a matter of fact, we should ask that question from them when they come before us. Why do you wait to the last minute? Because that is certainly, like Alder Santiago stated, it puts us in a hard place. So, and to Alder Roth's point, we certainly want to do our due diligence. If we have questions that we have to ask, at the end of the day, we are just approving a 1-year opportunity for them to come up with a plan or a deal that ultimately we can still deny. We can approve a recommendation for that 1-year extension. If it goes to the board, Alder Roth, as you know, we can certainly also deny it at the board or at the floor and just completely just squash it. So this is not just, okay, we're going to approve this. And then going back to Alder Edwards' point, they had a 40-year tax abatement, but you're correct. I believe the information that you were reading, they're asking for an extension of 20 years, but we only wanted to provide 15. So I wanted to also provide some clarity on that. So you're correct. They were asking for an additional 20. And I do see Alder Roth's hand up, and I also see Alder Douglas's hand up. So let me go to Alder Roth, and then we'll jump over to Alder Douglas.
If Alder Douglas wants to go first, because I already asked one question, I can
Sure.
defer to him
Thank-
and then hop in.
Thank you, Alder
you.
Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Alder Roth. I don't know if this has any bearing on this whole case here, but I know that the towers have come through community block grants for some money. So I don't know if this is going to have any bearing, and maybe they're trying to stall for time, but I'm not sure. But I can't divulge what they were going after. But I know they did make application for some grants, some funding. And I don't know what it's for. So it might have some bearing on this whole case.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Alder Douglas. Would you happen to remember if it was hardware or software?
I don't believe I should say right now because I don't know. I just
No
wanted to put that out there. All right.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Alder Douglas. Alder Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my additional question is, Alder DeCola said, whatever's going forward is going to be more than it currently is. I guess that makes me think they can afford more than they're currently paying. And so I mean, is that accurate? In which guys sort of have concerns about locking into their current rate just because they were late in getting the documents to us and they aren't even here tonight to sort of make their case. So I get, again, my question is, it appears they can actually pay more than they're currently paying. Is that correct?
That's a great observation. Can they pay? I mean, Don, what do you think?
We don't
Or
know.
Dakota?
We don't know at this point, because we haven't had a whole lot of time to dig into it either. Normally they would go through the administration, through LCI or somebody that would work out the preliminary details. But in this particular case, they bypassed them. And even LCI and Economic Development had no clue what it is that they were trying to do at this point. And as I said, we were just, they did it so late, we didn't want to affect the residents. Give them the year so we can talk about it. There's no difference. We're talking tax for 1 year. Then we can come up with an agreement that everybody can agree to and understand.
Does that answer your question, Alder Roth?
The answer is my question, I guess, and we'll have deliberation. We can discuss more. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And again, if this committee does not want to provide that 1 year extension, that's the decision of this committee. Ultimately, once it goes to the board, they can override and say, no, let's vote in favor. But at the end of the day, I certainly would appreciate the input of every single one of my committee members so that we can make the appropriate decision. So at this time, if there are no more questions or concerns or comments, let's move on to item 2. And I would like to ask Don, do we have anyone from Clara's Global Alliance? If not, I believe there wasn't, so we're going to skip over that one. Item 3. So this is a,
Did you want to go over to item 2?
do we have someone available?
Do you have the list report that Alder Santiago can give?
Alder Santiago or Alder Dakota?
Alder Dakota.
Okay. Alder
I
Dakota,
went back a few years.
will
Okay,
I yield to you, sir.
this is the 355 Ferry Street, Fairbanks, correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay, there's a new owner. Sorry. And they just put their name in to see if there was any availability for tax abatement for this building. And they're not increasing any affordable housing. The rent, the apartments are remaining the same at 121. They pay $260,000 a year right now. They were looking to get it dropped to 180. The Lishka committee, we recommended no deal at all on this because there's no benefit to the families of the area and low income families. So this was, I think they just wanted to see if we were willing to give them something, and the whole committee voted no on this. So this is dead in the water as it stands right now. All we're just going to do is vote that we're not giving anything on this,
Mr. Chair.
and that they still will pay $260,000.
Thank you, Alder Dakota. Yes, Don.
Just as another point of clarification, the application is asking for tax abatement for the entire property. That property has a commercial section, a bank.
Mhm.
They have parking lots, both street level and underneath the building. And at the time of the Lishta meeting, even the assessor was unable to determine exactly how much of the property it would be taxable. Because one of the things that has been in the past for a tax abatement agreement has been on the low-income housing itself, not the entire facility.
Thank you, Don, for that clarification. So I was in support during the Lishta committee to also turn this one down. Any questions from the committee members? I see Alder Edwards. Alder Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, did they hear the result of the Lista committee and therefore aren't here tonight? Did they give any reason why they aren't here either?
So none of these folks, so neither item 1 or item 2, none of the folks came before our Lista committee, but I'm wondering if one of our members reached out to them, but I'm unaware if they know that we were going to turn it down. Alder DeCola, maybe you know. Alder,
And they never reached out to any of the alders of the area on, so our recommendation is defer this. So it's let it, so this tax season, they'll pay whatever they're supposed to, but I forgot about that part. Thank you, Don Hayden. Yeah, the assessor couldn't even figure out, and they have Key Bank there and everything else, and they pay commercial rate. So just
Yeah.
recommend defer this. So
And
then-
another point of clarification, Mr. Chair.
go ahead, Don.
According to the list of rules of the committee, even if the committee turns them down and it goes through the board as a turn down, they do have the ability to reapply. This is not a complete, no, don't bother us anymore. They can come back. Hopefully they will, but
Yep.
they'll have more discussion with the administration to determine exactly what it is they're trying to do.
Right, so they're just taking a stab in the dark, seeing what they can get away with, and this is what they're gonna get away with.
Yeah.
An egg. So hopefully next time they're better prepared with some factual information, factual data that can provide some weight as to why they need a tax abatement. But at this time, Lista, every single one of us voted that we will deny this item at this time until further information is provided. Thank you, Alder DeCola. Any additional questions, Alder Roth?
No, I don't have additional questions. I didn't know if there was any no question.
Okay. So I'm looking, I don't see any questions at this time, any hands raised. So we're going to move on to item 3, which is order concerning real property taxes of Mr. Dwight Downer. And I believe this is another individual that qualifies for this. I believe, Don, if I'm not mistaken, this person qualified before? No, wait a minute. Yeah. You know what? Maybe you have some more info.
This is for his car tax bills.
Okay, got it. So do we have him present at this time?
No, I notified them and gave them information on how to get up here, but they're not currently in the queue.
Gotcha. So what we'll do is we'll skip over them for now. We'll have them come back next month, and then continue the process for them to be able to state their case so that we can provide any assistance that's appropriate. Thank you, Don. For item 4, do we have anyone regarding the property taxes for Vanita Taylor?
No,
Okay.
she also was notified and given the information and is not attended.
Gotcha. So let's skip over this one, give them an opportunity to come back and invite them again to next meeting. Item 5, this is a deferred collection for property taxes for Inez Donaldson. I'm going to assume that this is a constituent that meets the qualifications. Don, do you have any?
Correct. I
Okay.
gave you a copy. I sent you a copy of the financial workup,
I have it here. Yep.
and she is at a negative number, which means even with doing a monthly payment to the tax office, she would not have enough.
So based on the information you provided, this individual has qualified for tax abatement since 2012, and they
Yes.
still meet the requirement.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe just a point of clarity for for someone who has been getting this for almost a decade, what do we do to ensure that we're not only providing assistance, but at least getting some sort of taxes?
We don't get any taxes because we are piggybacking off a state law
Okay.
that the board years ago approved.
Gotcha.
That said that if you are too poor to pay and you meet that requirement, you do the tax abatement. we get the money back at 6% interest at the time that the house changes, the property changes hands, which has occurred twice so far in the last 3-4 months of long-term people.
When it changes to a new land owner.
New owner.
Okay. Sounds good
If
to
the
me.
house is sold, we get paid. If it's given to a family member, then we get paid.
Gotcha. Just want to ensure that we're following state law. Very good. So last item, which is deferred collection for real
Okay.
property of Rose Jackson.
I got a question on that one.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I got maybe clarification. If he changed hands or if he gets refinanced, right?
Or if it gets refinanced, correct.
Okay, all right.
Well, under the rules of the LISTA committee, not the LISTA, under the rules of the state law, it does not mention refinancing. But mortgage companies have a
'Cause it has a
clause
lien.
in the contracts that all taxes must be maintained.
Plus, it's gonna have a lien, right? Because
So they have a lien on the property and
Yeah.
it would be noticed it would be seen by the mortgage company and they would usually add
Hey,
on
yeah,
whatever that amount was to the mortgage.
got it. Yeah,
And then we
just,
would get
just,
paid.
just for clarification, because I knew something about refinancing had to do something.
Right.
Thank you, Don.
So,
That also includes reverse mortgages.
okay. And so currently that particular property has a lien on it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah,
Okay.
for the full time.
Got it. Thank you. And so I'm going to, I don't want to assume, but I will have to say that the last item, item 6, is similar to item 1. I'm sorry, similar to the item prior, item 5, which is because they're looking for deferring collection, they are also meeting the requirements. But this individual has been getting it for now a decade, since 2011. Okay.
Correct. Mhm.
All right. So we don't need any further discussion. At this time, I would like to, yes.
You will notice that the request is for grand list year 2019 and 2020.
Okay.
The only reason it's 2020 also is because the taxes will be due in a little over a month.
Right.
Which is
both
why they've
items.
been added on.
So items 5 and 6. Okay. I did see that. At this time, I would like to entertain any testimony in favor or against items 1 through 6 from the public. Does anyone from the public wish to testify on items 1 through 6 at this time? And going 3 times, I would like to ask or entertain any testimony from the public regarding items 1 through 6. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion of this meeting.
I move to close the public portion.
Alder Roth has moved to close the public portion of
I
this meeting,
second it.
and my Vice Chair, Alder Santiago, has seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please indicate it with an eye.
All right,
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any nays? Any abstention? The ayes have it. The public portion of this meeting has now been closed. I'll entertain motions from this committee.
I guess,
Yes, Mrs. Vice Chair.
I'll make a motion to, so we can approve that 1-year extension for item 1.
I hear motion. Do I hear a second?
Second,
The motion has been moved to extend a year for an extension to item 1, and it was seconded by Alder Edwards. Discussion.
If I may,
Alder Santiago, Vice Chair, yes.
well, actually, I made the motion because our colleague, Decola, did mention the families that live there. We have to be aware of their situation. But in other circumstances, I was going to deny it because they have to come earlier for us, and it's becoming a habit. Everybody coming late to us, so it's just 1-year extension. We're going to give them a year. Hopefully, will LCI or whoever has to be on top of that. Don't wait until the last day of next year to get this going. I mean, through you, Chair, maybe we should send an email or something just to get the ball rolling from now. That way we don't wait until the end of the year, or maybe we could do it before the year is over. If they come up with a solution, I mean, if that viable, done, do we have to wait for the whole year? Or can we do
No,
it like,
they will, according to the Lister rules, they will be receiving a letter once the board has approved the action, whatever the action may be.
Yeah.
So
that
they can
it
certainly
has
come-
been extended for a year, and hopefully I'll be able to identify some of the administration that they need to coordinate with so that they can work with them to try to come up with an equitable agreement.
but my question is, do they have to wait for the whole year to be over?
Oh, no,
Okay,
no,
they-
oh,
No.
no,
Okay, they could do it early, right?
They can
Yeah,
come
once-
as
Okay.
early as 3 months, 6 months.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
maybe we should send an email to you, share, to the Lista committee to reach out to them, or
Indeed.
to them to reach out to somebody for the city to get the ball rolling. Because the families do need that abatement for them to not to be displaced. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. And I do, based on the information that we all received, I believe the average family is, or the person that lives in is 86, which means we have elderly population that we definitely want to consider. And we wish that we wish this comes to us sooner. But given exactly the circumstances that revolve this particular tower, we definitely want to consider the families, which is something that we're ardent about. So thank you, Ms. Vice Chair. Any additional comments, testimonies, questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Don.
The Lister committee also recommended that it go UC for the June meeting. Otherwise, it
Okay.
would go as a second reading in July, which would just
Okay.
delay it another month.
So what I'll
Or
do
leave it
is
to committee, whichever you prefer.
I'll give an opportunity to Alder Ms. Vice Chair Santiago to amend his motion to incorporate UC. But at this time, I would like to entertain Alder Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate Alder DeCola's briefing and the sentiment of just extending a year. However, and I obviously appreciate that we need to protect the families, but I just don't think there's actually enough information to know that they don't have enough money for the families to stay there. I mean, we were told there's not enough, we don't know how much more they can pay. So I think I don't think it's clear that if we said you have to pay some more, that would harm the families in any way. And it really does, the fact that they filed this so late, they aren't even here tonight to sort of argue why this is important to them, to me is concerning. And so I think they're taking advantage of us. I mean, obviously they have a very important service. They have a lot of people who they help there, but it's a very different agreement in the other building. I mean, they clearly have some means if they're paying more in that other building. And if we have the thought that, I mean, it sounds like the reason we're not extending this is we think there should be a different structure going forward, closer to what's with the other tower. And so I've got to believe we're thinking there's somehow more money they can pay. So it concerns me to wait, just given the challenges all our taxpayers in our city face, to wait a whole nother year and kind of let them have this very low rate when we really don't know that that's all they can afford, and when they delayed and when they're not even here tonight to make their case. So that's my view.
Alder Roth, I concur with every single piece of your statement.
Yeah.
It's spot on. I think that is it's accurate, it's appropriate, and I believe that we should certainly get a response sooner rather than later. And I believe that we're being taken advantage of at this time, given the circumstances. Needless to say, I certainly want to ensure that this item is discharged appropriately. I want to thank Al for always keeping me on track. So thank you, Al Lucas. I want to ensure that my vice chair makes the appropriate amendment to the motion if he's willing. Again, this is your motion.
Yeah, but I got a little more. I got one other discussion before I amend my my motion.
Mhm.
And maybe if Alder DeCola is still there, or maybe Don could answer this. That this might be a music to Alder Roth's ears. Can we, in the new 1 year deal, can we increase anything on the taxes for them or no?
We don't have any deal. That's the
No?
problem. We don't have
No, I'm talking
anything.
about, we extending the same deal they had, right?
Mhm.
Okay, since that deal is already over with, right? It's done. Am I correct on that?
You are
Don?
correct.
So that means they don't have any deal. Then we could increase a little bit if we ask. Or they
You're
could
right.
say no or yes, right? Am I correct there?
That's a great point. That's a valid point, given the expiration of the 40-year contract. And now we're giving them a 1 year to maintain the same consistent tax abatement, so that they can come back to the drawing board. Don, what is your opinion regarding a potential increase as a sort of, here's
Yeah.
like, what is it, a fine, if you will?
Well,
I'm just for
based
the
on,
record.
based on
Yeah,
the current,
yeah.
based
go
on the
ahead.
current agreement, we're not, how would you, what would you increase it by? I don't know. The assessor didn't know, LCI wasn't sure. That's why it's really got to be sat down with them over the year and say, because it's so tenuous the way they had it developed initially,
Yeah.
there was no escalation clause in it or anything else.
I'm just-
So
yeah.
Mr.
I don't
Vice
know
Chair,
how
how
we
much
could-
do you want them to pay?
I was just throwing
exactly,
that
how much
question
do you
out
want
there.
them to pay?
I was just throwing that question out there because like this, I still believe we're gonna to give them 1 year, and I'm gonna amend this to go to UC. I just wanted to ask that question, maybe if it's possible. If it's
Yeah.
not, then we'll give it a year. If it's
Yeah,
possible, of course, we want more money for the city. I mean, that's a given,
Indeed.
It's
So
just
you have-
figuring out how much,
Yeah.
uh,
So the answer is no, right? So
Do you know that magic number?
yeah, I have no way of figuring it out. I wish
Okay,
there
so-
was.
so let me just
That's how
amend it.
that's how confusing
Yeah.
the fund is, the way they get taxed now is.
Okay.
That
So let
even
me
the
just-
other people that do it, even they were
Forget the
scratching their
question.
head going, I don't know.
Let me just amend it. I want to amend I'm amending my previous motion to add it to, so it could be put in UC.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion on the amendment to this motion? Seeing none, all in favor to approve the amendment indicated with an aye?
Aye.
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 Alder Edwards?
Aye.
I think I have everyone. So any nays?
And
Any
this is
abstention?
just for UC, correct?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes. Any abstention? The ayes have it. Now, all in favor to approve the motion as amended, please indicate it with an aye. And again, for point of clarity, this is just an extension for 1 year with the same tax abatement where they're able to come back to the drawing board. And once it's discharged from this committee, it's going to go to UC. Indicated with an aye.
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 Any nays?
Nay.
Any abstention? The ayes have it. Thank you all. I would entertain another motion or another item.
We go.
Mr. Victor?
Yes, I think from 2 to 4, right? We passing over,
Nope,
Number
we're,
two.
we're not. 2, we are denying.
denying. I mean, no
If-
action, right?
If no, we're gonna discharge it unfavorably from this committee if you so choose to make that motion.
Okay, so this,
You don't necessarily need to UC a discharge, but you can. Well, it's a negative ends up being a leave to withdraw.
So leave to withdraw, I think, would be the most appropriate, given that there's not enough information for us to make a thought out response or give it a tax abatement.
so 3, and 4, this is the first time that they don't show up?
That is
Yes.
correct.
Oh, so don't leave, okay. So I guess
No,
Move
number
that
two
we-
is a leave to withdraw.
Leave to withdraw, exactly. That was-
If you disapprove their application, it's a leave to withdraw to the board.
Okay, so I move to give it leave to withdraw to item number 2.
Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Discussion.
Last question?
Go ahead, Alder Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I appreciate again the recommendation from Lishta. I guess my only comment is this may show why it would be advantageous to have a standard for Lishta. The fact that people sort of think they can apply if there was a set standard for how Lishta operated, it would have been clear to them that they did not fit in that standard, and it would have saved a lot of people a lot of time. So that's my only point, but I obviously agree with denying the request.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none. I think we do have, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, we might have some sort of guidelines. Alder, Mr. Vice Chair, Alder Santiago, I don't know if there's
I can answer
standard.
that. I can answer that because I was involved in writing it.
Yeah,
There are certain requirements that they have to
3.
follow. It has to be low income. They have to explain what it is they're trying to do, how much money they're putting into the property. They have a thick binder. I sent you a copy of their application. And usually they'll contact LCI and work with them to fine tune it. Because unfortunately, the board staff doesn't have the skill sets required to go through all that. Whereas the people up in LCI are used to dealing with this type of economic development type thing. So, and I believe, and you can correct me, Mr. Chair, the Lishta, somebody's got their thing on. The LCI group had recommended also that they use a reconstruction
Loan.
deferment, which is 20% that they don't pay for the first 2 years, and it's 20%, 40%, 60% going on. And they haven't even looked at that yet. So that was, again, one of the reasons why they recommended to the Lishta committee that it be disapproved.
Great. Alder Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Don. Yeah, and that, I guess, when I said standard, I more was getting at the fact I saw that they recommended that they try to apply to the assessment deferral program, which is sort of something we as a board set up standards for how it works for people. And so that was, I know myself and Alder Festa put in a request for a hearing to kind of come up with something similar in this context. So that was more my point. I do think that would help external people who are interested in seeking these know what was the appropriate, whether or not it was appropriate to apply. That's it. But again, I agree with not approving this.
Thank you, Alder Roth. Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes,
What was
and
your-
also, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, because I helped when they were writing the thing up. I think the city has the option. There's 3 ways that they could pay, right? Is it base income? There's 3 ways. And the city picks the one that most favorable the city. Am I correct there? How much they pay? Is based on income, and it's 2 other ones that they the Lishta package.
Yeah, there's different ways that they can determine what it is they have to pay. The committee usually tries to get the highest amount out of them.
Exactly, but the 3 are what are the 3? One is income, right? Was it income? What's the other 2? I don't remember what the other 2 were.
I have to look it up.
Yeah.
Hang on a second.
So the city have the option to look which one more benefits the city. And I don't know if you guys knew about this. There's 3 options that the city could look at to see how better helps the city. Let's put it that way. How much they pay more. I know one is income based, and the other 2 I don't remember. It's so long ago that I'm not
Hmm.
But there is a guideline that the city could that we could go with to say, why we looking at income when we could get more doing this other thing. Sorry, Don. I just remember that.
As Don looks for those two
Yeah.
things, any additional comments, questions? I don't see any. Okay. So once we can get that info from Don, I'm gonna move to vote on this item.
Mr. Chair, I think we could continue. He could tell us later when he finds it.
All in favor to leave to withdraw item 2, please indicate it with an aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? The ayes have it. Mr. Vice Chair,
I move that we pass on 3 and 4 for next month.
do I get a motion? Do I get it? I'm sorry, a second.
Second.
So we're gonna skip over items 3 and 4, give an opportunity for them to come back next month and explain their case. Any comments, suggestions, questions? I don't see anyone with a question. Seeing none, all in favor, please indicate it with an eye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? The ayes have it. And on the last item, last 2 items, Mr. Vice Chair?
I guess I didn't hear more, my computer was freezing. I guess they both qualified from before, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then I move that we continue giving the abatement to both 5 and 6.
Second.
The motion has been moved to allow another 2 years of tax abatement as they qualify for being too poor to pay. It has been seconded by Alder Edwards. Any comments, any questions, any suggestions, discussions? Seeing none, all in favor to approve items 5 and 6, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? The ayes have it. Items have been approved. No points of privilege at this time, so motion to
Mr.
adjourn.
Chair,
No,
Yes,
Mr. Chair, I have a point of privilege. This is to the Mr. Chair and my colleagues.
Yes.
I'm trying to wrap my head around tax abatement. I know the economic development developer goes through that, they work a deal, comes to us to pass for a 15-year, and it come through here, it pass, and it's gone until time like this come to renew. I am for development. I am for tax benefits and break. But I would like to see it used in the way it was designed and appropriated for. For instance, one, instead of a 15-year, we do a 5-year increment, come back, we just look at profit and loss, where the money is making. We have a sample of the leasing of the affordable housing with tenant. Have them come to the committee, test it, we can ask them questions. So we know it's serving its purpose. And if we find it serves its purpose, is that good in the 5-year? We do it for the next 5 years. And we continue until the 15 years. And that's something I've been toying with in my mind. And if I could have my colleagues to support me with this. And
Alder Singh, duly noted. Welcome to city government. But I would like to entertain 2 of my colleagues, Alder Santiago and then Alder Roth.
Yeah, Alder Singh, we do have that. You just have to, bring it to the table. We've done it before. I think we did it with housing. The last 2 abatements that we did for the 2 of the housings, that after 5 years they're gonna come to us. See, the same thing you said. It's already on the table. I think, if I'm not mistaken, for Fairhaven Heights and for the one in Ferry Street, Ruplo. I know we did it twice for them. They're gonna come back to us, and then we'll look at it, and then we'll, what you just said. We already done it. But if you feel like you could bring it to the table. When they come to us, you could say, well, I want to see everything in 5 years. No, keep in mind that you might not be here in 5 years, or none of us might be here in 5 years, but they have to come back to whoever's on the board.
But at least we're trying to lay some policies
with you.
down that,
I'm with you 100%.
it would work for the way it was designed. And,
Yes.
I mean, being here in the tax committee, I mean, I want to do my due diligence, you know.
Well, yeah.
If if we are approving something, let's approve it, you know.
That's what I just what I said before you came to the committee. I think it was Don will tell you, like last year we did 2. I think all the earthworks were there too. That we had them come back to us. What you just said, we told them they have to come to us. We look at everything, and then we'll go from there. So just so you know, it could be done because we have done it. That's what I wanted to tell you. But good thinking, though. Very good thinking.
But it went favorably.
Alder Santiago,
Oh yes,
Alder Santiago,
yeah.
what the committee and finally the board approved was a requirement that they come back to us in a certain amount of time with a report,
Exactly.
not to redo the
No,
abatement.
exactly. Yeah.
And for Alder Singh's point of clarification, it's longer sometimes because of the financing package they have to put together. If they get federal money, sometimes they are required to do it for 40 years. They have no choice. If they don't get it for 40 years, they don't get the funding. That's why sometimes it's difficult when you get the different funding sources that they use. The federal funding anyway. And
Thank you very
anytime you
much.
have questions, Alder Singh, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and go over them,
Thank you,
Thank you,
colleagues.
everyone.
Thank you.
or anybody else on the committee.
Good thinking. On the same. Good thinking.
Alder Roth.
Yeah, I appreciate the point raised by my colleague Alder Singh. I'll leave it at that.
Excellent. And a motion to adjourn is appropriate.
So move.
Second.
And third.
No discussion needed. All to adjourn indicated with an eye.
Aye.
Aye.
Take care, guys. Be safe.
Thank
care,
you
guys.
for.